Hello everyone, I'm Greg Fox and welcome to WESH 2's Commitment 2018 debate with the candidates for Florida Senate District 12. Senate District 12 lies in 3 counties, Lake, Marion, and Sumter. Cities include Bellevue, Bushnell, Leesburg, Tavares, and Mount Dora are all within this district. The Democratic candidate in this race is Gary McKechnie. Thank you for joining us. And the incumbent in this race is Republican Senator Dennis Baxley. Thank you both for joining us. We think that the political process is enhanced when people come out, talk about important issues, and show us what their views and their different sides to it are. So thanks very much. We're going to give you a chance to tell us a little bit about your personal and professional background and why you think voters should vote for you. We're going to start with you, Mr. McKechnie. You've got a minute.
Okay, thanks, Greg. My name's Gary McKechnie, as you can see on the screen below me. And I am a Florida native. I was born here in Winter Park, grew up in the first house just a few blocks from here. I attended Orange County Public Schools, went to Valencia, and then graduated from UCF with a degree in communications with a focus on radio and television. And I put myself through college working as a Walt Disney World cast member and supplementing my income on weekends at a comedy club where I was a writer and performer. After college, I traveled to Europe, backpacked around for the better part of a year, came home, started traveling across America by motorcycle, and it was that led to my career as a travel writer. So I've been a travel writer for Visit Florida. I cover our rural counties across Florida, so I've been all over the state. I know every part of the state, which has been great for me. I've written a few books for National Geographic. I've written the best-selling motorcycle guidebook to the United States, and I lecture on American history and our cultural heritage. And I think it was all that led people in Lake County to ask me to run for public office. And I think that's a great honor. It sort of underscores the fact that to whom much is given, much is expected. And I've been given a lot. I've been given a whole lot. So this is my way of giving back.
All right, very good. I'm going to give you a little more time. Senator Baxley, your opening.
Thank you very much, Greg. It's great to be with you. And first of all, I want to just thank the people for allowing me to be their senator for the last 2 years. It's been a wonderful experience. And after a couple of tours in the Florida House, I think I've been able to be very effective for the district. Florida's on a good track, and I'm very grateful to be a part of the position that Florida is in right now. Many people don't realize, but we're leading the country in financial stability as a state government. We have the best Moody rating, AAA rating, that we've ever seen, which reduces the cost of all kinds of projects that are out there that are bonded, where we could use that money for serving people rather than debt retirement. We've been able to pay down our debt. And out of all these factors, what we've seen under this leadership that I've been a part of is we've seen our state become its healthiest in terms of job growth. I've watched this move from 14% unemployment down to 4% under the policies that we've done. We have the strongest Florida retirement system, is the strongest system in the country right now for all the people that work with us and serve people. It's a pleasure with a family of 5. I have 5 children and 8 grandchildren. With my daughter-in-laws and my wife Jeanette, we have a big family of 18. And they all live within 30 minutes of my home right here in the district. And when I look at them, I think about what kind of Florida are we giving them? I know what I got at 17 years old, and I'm grateful that I can give back.
Very good. I want to start with a discussion about gun safety. As we all know, horrible shooting in February at the high school down in Parkland in South Florida. After that, lawmakers passed sweeping reforms, certain restrictions, school hardening measures. Mr. Baxley, you voted no on the final version in the Senate. Can you first of all explain why you did that?
Absolutely. School safety is a huge issue for all of us. And obviously, with as many children and grandchildren as I have, I think about safety of our children every day. The thing is that we need to keep in perspective is that when we do something that large in response to an incident, we need to make sure that we're getting all the parts of it right. And there's many good parts to the school safety bill that we passed. There are a few problems, and some of those that bothered me the most is that we were adding restrictions to law-abiding people who would not change the school safety situation at all, but it would diminish their rights. And I'm very protective because I think we're all safer if you empower law-abiding people to stop violent acts. They can, they will, and they do.
Mr. McKechnie, your response and your thoughts on that.
I think, again, with respect to Dennis, much more could have been done. Look, kids who are being killed at schools, like at Parkland, those poor kids can't vote. And they went up to Tallahassee and they sat at that session where they could have discussed gun safety and keeping those kids safe. And from the floor, they could look up in the gallery and they could see those kids just wanting the adults to take care of a problem that affects them, people going into schools and shooting them. Not only did they not address the kids up in the gallery, the kids were in tears at the end of this session because they were ignored. And not only were those kids ignored, in Dennis, I'm not telling tales out of school, when somebody interviewed you about doing something about it, doing something more about it, you equated the dangers of an AR-15 and automatic weapons, and I know you're waiting for this because you said it, to spoons and forks, because you could eat too much and become obese and then you get heart disease. And to diminish that argument that we need tighter gun laws and keep AR-15s out of the hands of lunatics, and granted, we have mental health problems here, but we also have mental health problems in other countries that don't have the massacres on a daily or a weekly basis like we have here in America. So I'm sorry, there's more to talk about here.
I want to get to the mental health issue in a second,
sir.
but I want to give Senator Baxley a chance to respond to that. You did, in fact, tell us in a West 2 News report in February that curing obesity, taking away guns from people is like curing obesity by taking away spoons.
Well, that's not exactly what I said. Why don't I explain what I said?
Sure.
What I'm trying to draw here is a clear difference in this entirely focusing, when we talk about school safety, about the instrument that they use. People don't know this, but we actually have more people killed by knives than we do with firearms. We have more murders by knives. And the thing is, the total preoccupation with the instrument that's used for the violence, rather than what is causing this violence and what is endangering us. And I simply made the comparison, that is a radical comparison, to say that we have a terrible problem with obesity. People are dying. A lot more people are dying of obesity than violence. Do we need to go out and gather up all the spoons because these spoons are creating violence? This is my point, is that you're focusing on the instrument that's used for violence rather than the cause of violence.
Can we focus on something that is related to the instrument? We're talking about guns here.
Yes, sir.
But a provision of the act, again, that you voted against, Senator, gives law enforcement the ability for people who have mental health concerns to remove weapons from their home until a judge says that it's okay to return them. Would you have at least supported that provision of the plan, if not the increase in age, for example, to buy long guns?
Well, I absolutely don't want I absolutely don't want instruments of violence, anything that can be used for violence, a firearm, in the hands of a person who is clearly a present danger to themselves and others. And I stand behind every effort to deal with that issue. And the other thing that we need to realize is we've got to keep things in perspective. Yes, this is horrible and shocking to experience, but please look at the big picture. This is one incident in violence. Millions of students are safe at school, and we're being hysterical about one issue that we do need to deal with. When at the same time, we're ignoring the fact that we killed lots more people every day on the highways with highway safety issues.
First of all, would you have voted for the bill as it passed? Yes or no?
I would have had to look at it very closely. I would have voted for it just to start to inch forward to a common sense solution.
Okay,
because
then on the mental health issue, again, to clarify, since I gave Mr. Baxley a chance to answer this, the provision that gives law enforcement the ability to take away weapons until a judge says that it's okay, or may not say it's okay,
right.
Is that a provision that you would have supported?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And let me address that, if I could, please. I've heard Republicans, and I have so many friends who are Republicans. Don't get me wrong. I'm not against, wholesale Republican ideas. What I'm saying is that a lot of the Republicans who will talk about Second Amendment issues are really not talking about Second Amendment issues. They're really protecting an industry through the NRA. That's what they're doing. They could make
comments. You're projecting a motive.
You don't need to interrupt me.
I'm not going to project a motive.
You don't need to interrupt me.
You are projecting a motive.
You don't need to interrupt me.
I'll give you a chance to respond in a moment.
You can plant your
Ms.
flag
Baxley.
here, and you can plant your flag here. A Republican and a Democrat, you're not going to reach anybody. You're only going to reach people on the fringes. You've got to find that common ground in the middle. But when you refuse to even talk to students, or could you imagine being the person who gets the call that your kid went to school in a school bus, and now they're going to end up in a funeral home in the back of a hearse? Can you imagine getting that call? You have to personalize these things. Because, Dennis, you're a public servant. You don't just serve your faction of voters. You have to serve the entire public, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. If I'm blessed with the public trust, it's going to be to represent everybody.
All right,
absolutely everybody.
I'm going to give the senator a chance to wrap this up, and we're going to move on so we can get some more
and
questions.
may I tell him
here.
I appreciate him discussing this with me. I don't have anything against you. I appreciate this exchange.
Go ahead, Senator.
Well, I just think it's important not to impart motives to other people, and I never do. We can discuss an issue, and we're going to see it differently. But that's okay. That's healthy for us. But here's the situation. I am very familiar with this type of loss. I've spent almost 50 years of my life standing with families. This week, I helped my own family bury a 4-year-old who died in a swimming pool accident. Don't tell me that I don't care or understand these children. But at the same time, simply because we have a strong emotion about that, are we doing it the right way? I will hold to you that the policies that we've made that empower many people, law-abiding people, to stop these violent acts is highly effective. And the reason I say that is we're right now, despite the violence we see around us, in a 47-year low of violent crime. And I think it is somewhat attributable to the policies that we have set. And I will tell you, I did meet with these children, 2 large groups of them. And I understand that their stress, their agony, their despair is being politicized by those who wanted to have a big turnout for this election.
All right, we could continue.
Yeah, we could go
continue
this.
This
could be the 24-hour debate
on this now.
This would be fun.
I want to get to something that is tangible in what people expect of their elected leaders. They expect that they will file bills that will somehow benefit them, perhaps in the district. So I'd like to know, first of all, if you're reelected, Senator, what would be the first bill that you're going to file in the session that's coming up in the spring?
Well, I'm not sure what will be the first bill, but I can tell you one that I'm very interested in, and that is looking at the public funding of statewide elections. I really don't understand why we expect the taxpayer to pay for choices of people they don't necessarily support or want to support their election. I think that's up to Gary and I to go out and raise the dollars and raise the support that we need. We should not be using taxpayer money to fund campaigns. In the Florida House and in the Florida Senate, we meticulously separate.
So will that be a bill?
Funds.
Will that be a bill?
That's a very good prospect. And another good bill that I want to look at will have to do with child safety in the atmosphere of the home. This issue that just happened with me with a swimming pool accident. I want to review how we better educate and how we better prevent home accidents and in the public sector. These things, if we empower ordinary citizens to be better engaged, we can definitely make the entire community safer for everyone.
Yeah, Mr. McKechnie, if you're elected, what would be your first bill? And I think it's worth noting, I don't know if you want to comment on the campaign finance. It is worth noting that
you betcha.
it is worth noting that Mr. Baxley has outraised you by 6 or 7 to 1.
Yeah.
Does he have a point? Does that mean he is favored by voters in the district, by businesses in the district, and they think he's doing an okay job?
Greg, when we're done here in the studio, I want you to go out to your desk and I want you to go to the Division of Elections and I want you to take a look at all the donors to my campaign and to Mr. Baxley's campaign. I was shocked a few months ago when one of our campaign volunteers, and this is a grassroots populist effort, this is how we're driving this engine. This is why we're trying to bring just compassion, common sense, and compromise back to Tallahassee. When you look at my donations, I could tell you 90% of the people who have donated my campaign, $10, $25, $50. Someone brought me a list of Mr. Baxley's donors, $1,000. It's like the Wheel of Fortune game show, and every piece of the pie is $1,000. And these aren't coming from people here in District 12. This is coming from Novartis, from Wells Fargo, from the NRA, from every special interest.
You've never seen a check on there from the NRA. That is not true.
Okay, I can grant you that.
I did check, and there is not a check from the NRA.
Okay, I appreciate that, and I stand corrected, and thank you very much for that. But I will tell you, these people don't know what Bushnell is. They don't know what Astatoula is. They don't know what Lake Panasoffkee or Okaumpka or Oklawaha is. They have no interest in our district, in District 12, other than what a politician can do for them. I'm here to serve the people. Again, that is what a public servant is. In the first bill, pardon me, Greg.
Go ahead.
I know you want to chat.
Go ahead, wrap that up,
chat.
and then I'm going to let Mr. Baxley respond.
I'm just getting energized by this because what I found in this, my first run for public office, is how money corrupts. The love of money is the root of all evil. And you can look at donations and say, hey, well, that's a metric by which his support is measured. It's not really. So the first bill I'm going to introduce,
Go ahead.
I know, you're giving
Just
me the eye.
real quick. Go ahead. What's the first bill?
As far as the first bill.
In a sentence.
Okay. The first bill, I want to make sure that voters know what a bill, who introduces a bill, because there are so many special interests in groups like ALEC that will handwrite bills and pass them through legislatures around the country with a special interest in mind.
So you want people to know who writes it?
Absolutely. It has to be transparent where that comes from. Who is paying the money? Who's getting the rake off? Who's getting the kickback?
Okay, so we're going to take this in two parts. The first one is the fact that more political action committees have contributed to your campaign a sign that you're beholden to special interest?
Well, and I certainly thank every one of the groups who supported me. And let me take a different glance at special interest for you. If you're a teacher, is that special to you? I hope so. You're devoting your life to it. If you're a nurse, is that special to you? Many of these organizations are the way that ordinary people in our district contribute their influence to this entire process. And it's very important that they have someone at the table because that is special to them. It's about their life. And they should have a voice there. And if you're not at the table, you might be on the menu. So just because people speak more in groups and from small business groups and from different interest groups, we all have something that is of special interest to us. And these are people, these are real constituents in our district who use these vehicles to speak into a system that's very difficult for them to speak with just one voice.
All right, and Mr. McKechnie also
Yes, sir.
brought up the bill that he would file. Would you favor such a bill so that the public could know exactly who wrote a specific bill that may be introduced by a lawmaker?
That's all very, I'm always for transparency, and there's nothing intransparent about it. All you got to do is go back and ask the sponsor some of the pieces and how it was put together. I do that all the time.
All right, I'm going to give you each a chance to ask each other a question. Mr. Baxley, go ahead.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I do have a question for
Hey,
you.
I recognize you.
I remember that there was a significant time that you were on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Oh, yeah,
And
that's right.
So it's a two-part question. Do you want to be a millionaire?
Yeah.
And what was the question that you missed?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I was on Who Wants.
First of all, that's the first time I saw a handshake in any of our debates before the debate was actually over. Let's write that down.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I did want to be a millionaire. And the question was, and we shot it over at Disney MGM Studios. It was Alfred Kinsey was known as a noted sex researcher. Before that, he was considered an expert on what type of creature: wasps, worms, rats, or snakes. And I was going for 25 grand, and I phoned a friend, and he said, rats. And I said, rats? He goes, rats. And I'm thinking, does he mean rats? He doesn't know the answer, or rats is the answer? So I said rats. What would you say, Greg?
I would say that I don't know, and I decide not to answer at this time.
Yeah, it was wasps. So
wasps.
there we go. But
I cheated. I did know the answer to that because I do my opposition research.
All right.
Yeah,
Mr. McKechnie, you have a chance to ask a real question of Mr. Baxley.
a real question. Were you ever on Wheel of Fortune? No. You gave me a very polite question, but unfortunately, I'm going to be putting you on the spot a little bit.
I love to be on the spot.
Okay. Because you're in the system, and I would want to know how many kids, you don't have to give me a number, but how many kids would have to be killed, would have to be massacred before you would start to bend just a little bit on your stance, your Second Amendment stance? Because it would be very important. And even though you think it might be window dressing and you know, not addressing the issue, a lot of parents and a lot of teachers and just a lot of citizens like the folks at Pulse would just love to know something like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I care desperately about their safety, obviously. And it's why I'm actually so passionate about the Second Amendment. It's not a selfish right. It's not that I get to do whatever I want. It's about this unique American sense of freedom that says, I am free to take responsibility for myself and others, to prevent bad things from happening. And it's why I'm so adamantly, I love freedom to do that more than I love anything about a firearm, believe me. Firearm is only a tool. But the Second Amendment freedom is protected because of this basic situation that if you empower ordinary people to be able to take responsibility, that there will be fewer people hurt. It's the very reason that I stand firmly on Second Amendment issues.
So you see where the flags have been planted.
You know, and we've talked a great deal at the beginning of this debate about that also, and certainly voters can go back online and review your answers again. I want to move to a different topic here. Still juggling around in the courts is the idea that although voters approved medical marijuana, the idea of smoking it is something that is not possible right now as medicine. And so my question is, we'll start with you, Mr. McKechnie, is that something that they should have, or is there a concern on your part that that will lead to a support of recreational marijuana in Florida?
You know, as I mentioned, I grew up here. I went to Domrick Elementary, Maitland Junior High, Winter Park High School, and even back in the 1970s, probably especially in the 1970s, kids were smoking dope. Unfortunately for some of them, it just escalated. People are still doing it. You know, the horse is out of the barn, and you know, everyone looks to Colorado now as the example of the model of how we can sort of contain this, tax it, profit from it. It's going to be happening. If people want to smoke pot, they're going to be doing it. If we can legislate it and create a framework within it for medical marijuana or recreational use, then
But the question is, do you support that?
Yes.
Not whether it's going to happen. Is that something you support
yes.
and would vote for?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Baxley, your
That's
thoughts
a good
on that?
contrast because I've already voted that we not have smoking. We've already spent billions and billions of dollars that smoking anything is detrimental to your health. And it has nothing to do with marijuana use. It has to do with the impact on your lungs and your breathing. And so to go around after we've spent billions of dollars in the name of health care and say, now it's all right as long as it's dope, I got a problem with that, and I think that I have been a person hitting the pause button because I don't want this just to be a flood of substance abuse, but I truly believe there are some very specific applied ways that marijuana has proven out to many, many people to be a helpful product as medical use. So I accept that, but I've voted against marijuana every time I can because I'm tapping the brakes, because the hordes are at the gate that just want to cut this loose. And if you study these states that are in transition, we can learn a lot from not only how they've been able to move along this continuum, but also avoid some of the definite problems. Let me tell you, in Colorado, the black market has gone wild. Making it legal does not remove the problems that are associated with substance abuse and what it does to people's minds.
All right, very good. They call this a mini debate for a reason. I've got one last question, then you'll each have a time for a close. I'm looking for a 30-second response or less from each of you on this. Amendment 4 is on the ballot this year. This would automatically restore a felon's voting rights instead of the system that we have now. We'll start with you, Mr. Baxley. For it, against it, and why?
Well, I'm not for it because I'm not for automatic restoration. A person could be serving their time for one offense that they were caught, but never have changed their life of crime. So I think there should be a genuine process by which, first of all, that you care enough that you ask for these rights to be restored. But they're also, where I would like to bring reform, is I agree with the folks that are filing this, that we presently don't have a very meaningful pathway back. And I do believe in personal accountability, but I also believe in restoration, rehabilitation, and a new life.
All right, so that's a no vote for Mr. Baxley. Yes or no, Mr.
Absolutely.
McKechnie?
No, 100% yes vote. This is America, for God's sakes. If you've committed a crime and you've paid for it, and you've been a productive member of society, and this doesn't include, violent crimes, sexual crimes, then by God, become part of the solution again. Play a role in America. Play a role in the future of Florida. I mean, it's just that simple. It's just a constitutional American way to get as many people involved in our system.
All right,
okay?
And that's 30 seconds. We're going to give you 30 seconds to close. Mr. Baxley, you go first.
Thank you very much, Greg, and thank you, Gary.
Oh, sure.
Your participation makes this process real. I love people. I love serving people. I've done that all my life. The last 2 years in the Florida Senate are the two most effective years. The constituent service alone that we can do for individuals to help them talk to government agencies and to accomplish the things in their lives that they're trying to do is so important. I'm asking the folks to give me a chance to put that knowledge to work for them. I do care. I do love them, whether they agree with me or not, and I do want them to participate and vote at the general election.
All right, thank you, Mr. McKechnie. 30 seconds.
Sure, and I don't doubt his sincerity about that, and I appreciate the fact that we've had a chance to get together. What I would say is, I've been a business owner. I've run a few businesses, I've started a few nonprofits, had a bed and breakfast, did all that stuff. If I had employees who I'd given 20 years to accomplish a task, and they hadn't accomplished a task as the Republican Florida legislature has done, or 24 years like the governor's office done, I would start to think, hey, maybe it's time that we have some job interviews and hire some new employees. So that's where I'm at right now. These guys, if they wanted you to have better health care, if they wanted you to have safer schools, pre-K programs, help out teachers, show the teachers that they respect them, give them a higher salary and help them out a little bit, just make sure all of us are lifted up, you would have had that. You would have had 20 years and 24 years for them to accomplish those things. And if they haven't accomplished it, if you are looking at yourself and think, I'm sorry, my 30 seconds are up.
I think your 30 seconds are more like a minute, so thank you very much. We're going to thank both of you gentlemen, Gary McKechnie, the Democrat, Republican Dennis Baxley. Thank you very much for joining us. And as always, we continue to hold numerous debates as our Commitment 2018 coverage continues, moving on to the general election.